Hello, today Esther doesn't want to be in front of the cameras and I'm substituting. So Esther will be reading a story for you. Okay, have fun. Bye.
Service Android. Charlottesville, a city where all forms of technology have evolved to its best form. Its government, good, but not perfect like any other government. Everything was fine until in 4037, a terrorist sect, Crimson Tentacles, declared a revolution against Charlottesville's government. Saphira's parents were part of the government's warriors who tried to put down the revolution. Unfortunately, Saphira's parents died while trying to protect the government from the terrorists. Chapter 1. It's late in the morning. This is already the fourth day when my service android hasn't woken me up. My eyes swollen from crying to sleep. I force myself from my bed. I dress up and exit my room to a long corridor, and from there I drag myself downstairs to a dining room. The dining room is a fusion room where the kitchen and the dining room are in the same space. My parents used to like cooking, and that's how we used to spend family time together. I go to sit on a bar chair. My home's kitchen also has a bar counter between the kitchen and the dining room, separating the two rooms from each other. My android is cooking brunch for me. After a while, the android noticed me. "Good day, my lady. Did you have a good night's sleep?" The android greeted me. "Well, what does it look like?" I asked, irritated. The android turned his back to see my face so he could analyze my face. "I suppose not," he responded. I got my android as a gift from my grandaunt after my parents passed away. Thankfully, my parents wrote a will so I could inherit all my parents' wealth and so on. After I finished my brunch, I asked why my android didn't wake me up. "Why didn't you wake me up today?" "Oh, do forgive me, my lady, for my error. The house's energy pulses were weaker than I expected. The house's tech is so outdated than I expected, so I could barely turn myself on, and I forgot to check what time it was," the android explained. "Okay," I replied, bummed. The thing that surprised Saphira was how her grandaunt knew what things she really liked. Well, she doesn't know that her android is the newest model to ever exist. It's better than the currently known best model. Saphira's service android is a male humanoid, fully tailored to her preferences even though she won't admit it. The android's face is half Western and half Asian, a medium muscular body, sapphire eyes and silver hair. After Saphira answered the android, she got up from the table and walked to the living room. She went to sit on a sofa near a window to gaze at winter flower trees. The service android followed her from a 1.5 meter distance from her to the living room, because on his first day he was following Saphira by the way he was programmed. Unfortunately, he was way too close to his mistress and she was offended by it. So the android had to adjust the program to please his mistress. The service android's name is Xavier 489 Luscos, but for the ease's sake from now on, we address him as Xavier. Xavier is programmed to take care of Saphira and to bring joy to her. Xavier noticed Saphira slightly shivering, so he chose to wrap her in a blanket. "Thanks, Xavier," Saphira thanked. "You're welcome. I will do anything to please you," Xavier answered back. Xavier decided to sit on the sofa next to Saphira, but still almost clinging to one of the sofa's armrests. Xavier didn't dare to ask for permission, analyzing that it would get to it would get an earful from Xaphira. But Xavier also thought that he would get the same reaction without asking, so it would have been very unlikely for Xavier to not get any negative comments from Saphira. The android hesitantly looked towards Saphira, ready to take the brunt, but Saphira didn't say anything. She just stared out and looked out. Judging from her eyes, she seemed to admire the winter landscape. The android relieved sighed because it didn't dare to leave Saphira alone, analyzing that she was physically and mentally unstable, but more physically. How does Great Aunt know what things I like so well? Or does Xavier guess well? It's very beautiful outside, but my body can't stand going outside. Well, that's a shame. I guess tomorrow then. Xavier just told me that he's now going to look for all the faults in the villa and start fixing them as soon as possible, with my permission. Of course, I gave permission for it, because I myself have started to notice the faults. After about half an hour, Xavier got up and went to start the little renovation. Before leaving the room, Xavier explained that I could find it by looking at the radar where it was. I nodded and Xavier went to fix it. Oh, be careful! I don't want your hair to get dirty, I warned, my voice shaking a little. Xavier stopped, looked back at me. It smiled at me and assured that I didn't have to worry. Then it turned back and continued on its way. I heard Xavier chuckle a little to himself as he continued on his way. What? Xavier, how could I not care? You annoying android dressed as a butler. At the same time, Xavier was renovating the house and Saphira was enjoying the warmth and softness of the blanket, wondering how Xavier knew so well about the things she likes. Saphira's great aunt planned to visit her to see how Saphira was doing. It's 6 o'clock in the evening and Saphira is hungry. She has woken up from her nap. Saphira had fallen asleep on the sofa from fatigue and a bad night's sleep, and the warm blanket made her sleepy. Xavier has finished the renovation and decided to vacuum the entire villa. Saphira decided to get up from the sofa and cook something to eat. Xavier also had time to scrub the floors of the villa and put a slippery floor sign next to the door. Saphira, being hungry, didn't notice the sign and slipped on the floor. Thankfully, Xavier swooped to her rescue. "Are you all right, my lady?" asked Xavier. Saphira looked around and answered, "Yes, I am." "Sorry, I didn't notice the sign." Saphira apologized, her cheeks heating up a little at Xavier's handsomeness. Xavier noticed the heating of the cheeks with his infrared sensors and asked, looking directly into Saphira's eyes, if everything is alright. As Saphira's face grew hotter, Saphira's social skills disappeared like a flame from a candle. Her social pressures made her withdraw into herself. Saphira covered her face with her hands and tried her best to calm down in Xavier's arms. Xavier, on the other hand, switched to a more ergonomic position with Saphira still in his arms. Saphira's panicked reaction came from not admitting that she liked Xavier's appearance. After Saphira calmed down, she looked at Xavier. His face showed disappointment. "Oh no, what did I mess up again?" "When Xavier was renovating, I have regretted my behavior towards it. I was thinking of cooking myself something to eat, and after it apologized to Xavier. Gathering all my remaining strength, I asked Xavier what was wrong with him, my voice shaking a little. "It seems that I have failed to please you." It's been hard to please you, unlike when you were little, answered Xavier with a low voice, but I didn't hear the end properly. Sorry? I didn't hear the end properly. Could you repeat? Xavier seemed to realize that he had said something he shouldn't have said. It was just this android's unnecessary rambling, answered the android gently, and with a calm smile. Suddenly my stomach growled loudly. Embarrassed, I looked away. Hearing my stomach growl, Xavier started to approach the kitchen with me still in his arms. He smiled gently and asked with a playful yet calm voice, "What would my lady like for dinner?" "I don't know. You can decide," I replied to my service android with a warm smile. Both of them continued their journey to the kitchen, Saphira still in Xavier's arms. Saphira apologized to the android for her behavior, and from then on they were on the mend. Xavier cooked Saphira's favorite dish, carbonara. Saphira continued to wonder how Xavier knew her favorite food was carbonara. Only her parents knew her favorite food was carbonara. After eating, Saphira got ready for the evening and for bed.